Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I don't really have a title just yet. I'm still working on a few titles for whatever I'm gonna name this hopefully monthly segment that we're gonna do. But for now we're gonna call it JP's Jam Report Monthly Music Reviews. Something like that. That's what it's gonna be for now. This is my official first one, period. What it is and what it's going to be is there is so much music that I explore off the channel, so many albums that I listen to, and this is my chance to talk about those albums. This is my chance to talk about those artists. And then what I'll do is I mean, you already seen the thumbnail, but I'll put out like a little infographic of like the albums that I've listened to for the month. And then I'll also share my streaming information from Spotify, since that's what I primarily use when I listen to music. And that way you guys can see exactly what I'm listening to on my off time, which is kind of like a part of the inspiration why I started this whole channel, because I listen to a lot of music and a lot of different genres and such. And even though on the channel we focus a little bit more narrowly, I still do my own personal exploration. So this is just a way for me to talk about it. And if you guys want to see this every month, you just let me know. If not, I basically won't waste my time. But I will always share it in the Discord if you ever want to hop on there. That's where I do share that information. So let's go ahead and start off our first official JP's Jam Report. Maybe one day I'll have like some cool music or something like that to go behind this. But so let's just first go into some of my streaming information. Let's do that first. So for the month of March, per Spotify, my top tracks are going to be, actually, you know, forget the top tracks. So you guys see it there, you can kind of see what's there, but I'll give you the artists. Let's go through that. So my top artists for the month of March was For A Cowboy, of which I've been listening to their newest and latest album, A Lot, Moon Healer, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, but that album slaps, as the kids say. I've been listening to that a ton. Then I've also been exploring Schoolboy Q's latest album. I've never personally listened to an album from Schoolboy Q, so this was my first album listening to him. And I gave it 2 chances because we'll dive into that in a little bit. Then Bryan Ferry, because I cannot stop listening to Don't Stop the Dance. I cannot stop listening to Boys and Girls. And then Thrice, because once again I was listening to the Alchemy Index and I've been just listening to that, which reminded me of some of the older albums I used to like listening to from them, like Artist in the Ambulance, Red Light, Kingston. That's such a good album. And then La Máquina de Hacer, I can't remember the whole thing, but I've been listening to them, as well as for the Long Song Saturday, we've been listening to their album. Okay, so from the top tracks, Beyond the Chemical Door, that's going to be For A Cowboy. Don't Stop the Dance, of course, Bryan Ferry. The Forever Rot is another song by For A Cowboy. Welcome to the Cruise is what that one is, from Judy Zook. We'll be listening to that. That's already come out by the time this video's come out, actually. And then The Price is one of my favorite songs from Leprous. So that's what I've been listening to there. But let's go ahead and dive into the albums that I've listened to. That's where I want to dive into a little bit more. You know, there's a lot of streaming, and I listen to those a lot of same songs over and over. But let's dive into the albums that I've listened to for the month of March 2024. So the first, like I said, is For A Cowboy, Moon Healer, the deathcore turned death metal / technical death metal band. I didn't listen to them a ton back in their deathcore days, even though I was definitely into those bands and into the genre. I listened to a few songs here and there, and I did enjoy them, but it wasn't anything that like I really listened to a ton of. But I heard a lot about their change, and so I decided to listen to their latest that came out this year, Moon Healer, and I gotta tell you, I am enjoying it a lot. Yeah, the deathcore tendencies are gone, but they're still kind of there in certain ways. It's not like they've gotten rid of it completely. And I just gotta say that the bass playing, that is some phenomenal bass playing. That will more than likely end up on my top albums of the year for this year, but we'll see how it kind of panders out. But I do really enjoy For A Cowboy's latest album. The second one here listed is The Room by Fabiano de Nascimento and Sam Gendel. This is literally a jazz album with only guitar and some saxophone. And it is wonderful. I think it is a great kind of night listen just to put on as you're going to sleep or getting ready to turn in for the night. Maybe not going to sleep, maybe that's the wrong phrase, but as like your day is winding down. It's a great winding down album. And I'm very impressed by the simplicity of it, but also the mood and the emotions of it. I think that that's a fantastic one. And by the way, this is from top left to right, in case you can't tell where we're going. Okay. Next one, Schoolboy Q, Blue Lips. Like I said, this is the first album I've heard by Schoolboy Q. I've heard his name here and there, and since this was released this year, I decided to go ahead and give it a listen. I will say that I really do like the aggressive styles of the beats. I love how heavy they are. I will admit it's not one of my favorite albums I've listened to. The reason it came up on my streaming list a little bit on the top is because I listened to it twice just to try and, you know, listen to it a little bit more. Especially when I don't like an album so much, but I feel like there's something there, I'll give it another listen just to see what gels, what doesn't. And if I had to rate the albums, this one I'd probably give like a 2 out of 5, if I'm being honest. It wasn't my favorite, not horrible, but nothing I'd really fall in love with. And let's go back and rate the albums. Why not? We're doing that, right? Job For A Cowboy, as of right now, I'm going to say 4.5, and Fabiano de Nascimento, 4 out of 5. Schoolboy Q, 2 out of 5. Moving on to Perfume Genius, No Shape. I had listened to Perfume Genius for the first time back on JPMP, and I said, hey, it's been a while, let me listen to this album, the one that the song came from. So I decided to listen to it, and it's a good album. I will admit that it's not quite for me. It's a very beautifully atmospheric art rock kind of album with a lot of different influences in there, and I understand it, I get it, and on a certain wavelength, I enjoy it, but it's just not for me. It just doesn't hit me and connect with me personally, but I can't say that it's a bad album whatsoever. So for that, I have to go with a 3 out of 5. Moving on to the second row, DJ Crush with Saisei. DJ Crush is probably one of my earlier music influencers for myself personally. When I was really getting into music, he was one of the first names that kind of came around to me as I was listening to a lot of DJ Shadow, Massive Attack, Portishead, and all these people. DJ Crush, he makes like instrumental beats mixed with a lot of acoustic instruments, and I really like the bringing together of that influence and culture. And I would say that this album kind of continues the same. I don't think that there's anything overly interesting about the album, nothing really new or fresh or experimental or even progressive, but I will say that he still holds the line and continues in the way that he usually does. And it's still a really fun album to listen to, a really great one. Once again, a nice down-tempo, kind of downbeat album with a few more exciting tracks, but it's not one that excites, I would say. 3 out of 5. The next one, Spectral Voice, Sparagmos. I think I said that correctly. That's an album that came out this year. I've never heard of the band at all. They were described, I believe, as funeral doom metal, which I have heard before. And I like some doom metal, but sometimes it's a little too slow for me. Sometimes it's just a little too slow on the breakdown paths. And I'll admit that this one did not connect with me at all. It was just boring to me. That's where I walked away from this particular album with. It was just a little bit boring to me. It didn't work too well for me, so I got to go with a 1 out of 5 on that one. However, on the other side of the spectrum is the Alchemy Index from Thrice, specifically volumes 1 and 2 with Water and Fire. Thrice is a post-hardcore band that has a few, I would say, progressive tendencies. Not prog tendencies, but progressive tendencies. And I think a lot of people would enjoy this band a lot, especially in this era where they're taking different elements of alchemy and, you know, kind of making a little EP, we could say, based on that. So of course Fire is going to be much more aggressive, much louder, much rockier, but then Water is going to be much more atmospheric, a lot more ambience. And I think that these two really play off well each other, kind of giving a nice contrast to the music. This is a highly recommended album, I would say. Easy 4 out of 5. Moving on to the final one on the second row, Jazz Boys, with their album Jazz Boys Goes Blunt 2. This is an instrumental, I guess you could say, jazz fusion band with a great sampling of like hip-hop rhythms with, of course, the fusion-esque melodies on top. And I want to like this one more than I actually do. I came away with it that it sounds cool, but it's a bit flat. It tastes like soda that was left in the fridge just a day too late. And yeah, there's a little bit of carbonation in there, but it's on the way going flat. I want to like it more than I do because I have watched some of their live videos online, and I love watching them live performance. I love watching them play off of each other. It's great. However, the album just doesn't live up to that for me personally. onto the bottom row there, but not, of course, the bottom. First off, The Last Dinner Party, Prelude to Ecstasy. Jeremy over on the Discord was also talking about this album. However, I will admit that I have a different review than Jeremy does. I'm sorry, Jeremy, because I didn't like this album at all. It was boring to me. There were good ideas, and once again, this is one that I wanted to like more than I actually did, but the music was kind of boring. I don't know what you would call it, alt rock, pop rock, somewhere in the middle of that. And there just wasn't anything inspiring or interesting to me. There were ideas, there were parts that I enjoyed, but none of it just came together for me, and I thought it was a bit flat. So that's a 1 out of 5. Next, Julia Holter, Something in the Room She Moves. This was an interesting album because it's a very intimate, emotive kind of album with a lot of space given. And specifically for this, I mean, I've listened to a little from Julia before, and I never quite gelled with it. This album, I enjoyed it. I don't know how many more times I'll revisit it, but it is an enjoyable journey. It's very open art rock. I would say the closest band or artist I could think of to it is maybe Talk Talk in their later years with, Spirit of Eden or Laughing Tree. It's very ambient, but I gotta say, the coolest thing and perhaps the standout thing is the fretless bass playing. It is worth the price of admission on its own. For that album, alright, even if I'm not like head over heels for the album, I do think it's incredible, and I will at least recommend the title track of the album. Go and listen to that because I truthfully think that that's one of the best songs that came out this year. This is a 2024 release. Most of these are. I try to listen to current music when I'm listening to other stuff on my own, although of course I revisit older stuff. But I truly think that the title track is one of the best songs from this year so far. It's only been a few months, but it is incredible. Really think you guys will enjoy that one. And then finally, the final album that I listened to in March is going to be Casey Musgraves with Deeper Well. I've heard her name, I've never listened to her music, described as country, pop country, somewhere down there. And this is the type of album I like to find because simple in approach, brilliantly executed, and it's an album that my wife and I can listen to together. My wife is not going to listen to Job for a Cowboy with me, but Casey Musgraves, I put that on actually last weekend, put it over the Bluetooth speaker as we were making breakfast. She loved it. I like it. It's a great kind of companion piece for both of us, but besides that, besides situationally, it's a really good album as well. I think that maybe many people find this too simple. I don't usually listen to a lot of simple music, so when I find a pop album or a simple album that connects with me, I really like that. This is going to be one of those with her album Deeper Well. I personally suggest listening to it as you'll find a lot of different flavors, but relatively straightforward. But I really enjoy the song Dinner with Friends. I think that that's a great little track that has a great mood. Casey sounds great, and I just like the way that she switches the music up throughout this album, while still staying, as far as I can really say, true to herself and her art. I think that this is a really good album. I would rate this one a 3.5 out of 5. And then Julia Holter, I forgot to rate that one. I would give it a 3.8 out of 5 if I had to really be precise. But I will have to give that one specifically, a little bit more of a listen. So that is my jam report, my monthly music review for the month of March. So my favorite album definitely from this month is going to be Job for a Cowboy. And if I had to give it a second, I don't really care to. My favorite album of this month. The rules are my own, and I make them as I go. My favorite album from this month is Moon Healer, but of course, I would love to hear what you guys are listening to. Let me know your jam report. Once again, I don't even know if this title will stick. I don't know what's happening. So this is the first one. Hopefully, there'll be a few more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Press the like button if you enjoyed this. Of course, please come back tomorrow for whatever we're doing. And stay tuned next month for the monthly report again. If I decide to do this again, which I'm hoping I will, but you never know. So have a great one, guys. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.